When my wealthy grandpa discovered me sleeping in my car, he revealed an incredible family secret. Jamie Parker sat huddled in the front seat of her beat-up car, the engine silent, hoping to catch some sleep before the sun turned the world into a frantic place again. The chilly night air slipped through the thin windows, biting at her skin. She had been at it for weeks, juggling 3 jobs, all while drowning in student debt, each bill a relentless reminder of a degree that hadn't brought her closer to home. With her heart racing, she clenched her jaw, pushing back the frustration and humiliation of her circumstances. She longed for something more, yet felt shackled, an invisible weight pulling her under. Why wasn't I worthy? She whispered to the stillness of the night. It felt like a betrayal to yearn for something different. Yet every moment spent in her old car was a crushing blow to her self-worth. She ached to escape the judgment cast silently upon her. The looks at the grocery store when she strolled in to cash her meager paycheck. Everyone seemed to knew that she had a name tied to wealth, yet lived like this, in a car. Her stomach twisted at the thought. From afar, her grandfather Edward Parker led a life of luxury she could scarcely fathom. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Underneath the superficial admiration the world held for the Parkers lay a history riddled with resentment and disappointment. Her family's legacy haunted her. Layers of betrayal that ran deeper than she had ever cared to acknowledge. Suddenly, banging on her window brought her back to the present. She squinted through the darkness. It was him, Edward Parker, her estranged grandfather. Guilt and surprise fought for control as he offered her an escape from the past. Come stay at my estate. Every fiber of her being yelled for her to reject him, to refuse the lavish life that she felt would suffocate her with expectations. The weight of obligation pressed hard on her chest as she hesitated. Could this be her chance to relive an adolescence she had only fantasized about? To be more than what she was, but at what cost? The gilded dining room, adorned with portraits of ancestors who had known both power and ruin, felt foreign yet oddly familiar. Edward shared tales of the family's peaks and valleys the moment everything crumbled due to betrayal and loss. But why was he laying this burden upon her? The ambient light glimmered tauntingly, and she wrestled with the sickening thought that she might be expected to reclaim their honor. Conflicted emotions churned within her. The burning desire to escape her situation clashed violently with the anxiety of being dragged into the past she despised. Who was she? Just another Parker living in the long shadow of failure, or could she find her own path? Each moment spent with Edward reminded her of the financial ruin that had cast a pall over her family. As she stared into the polished wood of the grand dining table, a sense of foreboding settled in her stomach. Jamie's hand tightened around her fork. An explosive revelation flickered in the corners of her mind. Was there a hidden inheritance, waiting to be discovered? What truths lingered in the attic of this opulent house, secrets that could shift the tide of her very existence? Standing on the precipice of revealing her family's history, Jamie felt the tension escalate. In trying to confront the expectations set before her, she faced a quantum confusion, fighting to honor her lineage while longing to chase the artistic dreams she had buried. The choice loomed heavier than ever as she sensed a storm brewing within her, threatening to uproot every belief she held dear. In that moment of anguish, Jamie realized she was caught in a whirlpool of conflicting legacies, personal ambition, teetering on the brink of familial responsibility. The silken threads of the American dream frayed painfully, leaving her questioning if she'd find the courage to forge her own legacy, or if she'd crumble under the weight of the past. The heavy silence of the dining room pressed down on Jamie like a thick fog, her mind racing with the implications of her grandfather's words. The opulence around her felt mocking, a stark contrast to the life she had clawed through. Each portrait depicting a former Parker stoic, proud, and ultimately fading into dust only deepened her unease. They seemed to resonate with an unspoken challenge, to rise or to fade like them. Jamie, Edward broke the silence, his voice measured. You hold the key to our family's future. I trust you can understand the weight of this. In his eyes, she saw both expectation and vulnerability. He was a relic of legacy, but also a man wrestling with his own sense of loss. She clenched her fists, feeling that familiar mixture of anger and sadness stir within her. Why was it always up to her? Her focus drifted to the doorway. An escape route from the expectations wound tight around her. Who was she without them? Forcing herself back into the moment, Jamie faced Edward. What do you expect from me? She asked, each word an act of defiance against the narrative set before her. Was she merely a pawn in a game of family resurrection? Or could she carve out her own identity? You could revitalize our family business, he replied, his tone shifting from caution to persuasion. Real estate holdings, investments. It's all in disarray. He pushed a folder across the table toward her, the weight of her family's financial data suddenly more tangible than any family secret. This table is not just for dining, it contains our past and perhaps our future. Rising tension churned in her stomach as she opened the folder, revealing spreadsheets, market analyses, and property valuations. The deeper she evaluated the figures, the more alien they felt. She hadn't signed up to be a corporate savior. She envisioned a life of creativity and exploration, not boardroom meetings and profits. Why me? I'm just trying to survive, she countered, her determination brewing. You're all there is, Jamie, Edward's voice softened. You have a vision. You've been creating your own paths, even in your struggles. Your passion for art and storytelling can breathe new life into this estate, into our family name. He couldn't be serious. How could she transform histories of failure into success? Her heart hammered against her chest, simultaneously emboldened and terrified. The idea of forging her path through the veins of her family's past wasn't appealing. It felt like a trap. Yet, deep down, curiosity sparked. Was there something more within her? What if I choose differently? She asked, her voice trembling as she ventured toward the edge of her own ambition. This isn't just about preserving a legacy. This is about your future. The weight of his words settled upon her like a heavy cloak. What did her future look like, anyway? The reality she had constructed was crumbling, revealing elements of herself she had buried beneath duty and despair. Spending her days deflecting judgment had stifled her potential, but this opportunity, albeit shrouded in family history, held glimmers of promise, if only she dared to grasp them. A plan began to form in her mind, flickering on the fringes of her vision. She thought about how her skills in storytelling could paint new visions for the estate, infusing it with life again. A passion project. Could she blend the weight of her family's legacy with her artistic aspirations? As Jamie's thoughts swirled, conflicting emotions washed over her, a gust of anxiety, mixed with the sweet aroma of possibility. But would it be enough? The fear of disappointing her past and present selves loomed large, driving her to confront the monumental choices ahead. What legacy would she choose to build? As the evening continued with Edward sharing stories about their properties, Jamie felt an inner resolve begin to take root. The time had come to face not only her family's expectations, but also her own ambitions. Could she dare to embrace her identity amidst the towering shadows of her lineage? Determined, she met his gaze. I want to find our past, but I also want to create my own future, she declared, the ball now firmly in her court. The moment of truth approached, not just for the Parker legacy, but for Jamie herself. What would she uncover as she began to peel back the layers of her family's history? And could that history hold the key to forging her own identity? As Jamie sat in the plush chair, the weight of the folder in her hands felt like more than just financial statements. It was an invitation and a challenge rolled into one. She had spent years distancing herself from expectations, cultivating her creativity in the margins of life. But now the possibility of intertwining her passion with the weight of her family's legacy ignited something within her. What if she could breathe new life into the Parker name and, in turn, herself? Her grandfather's words echoed in her mind, urging her to embrace her vision. Where had that vision been hiding all these years? The mechanics of real estate might seem foreign, but she had navigated urban landscapes through her art, painting and sketching the stories of places and people. Those same streets were now potential canvases for her revival of the family estate. Flipping through the spreadsheets brought back memories of her mother poring over similar documents late into the night, her face crumpling in frustration. It was a cycle she had inherited. Yet Jamie felt a flicker of hope that she could disrupt it. The legacy didn't have to equal failure. Perhaps, through her artistic lens, she could unlock new opportunities for the estate. Determined not to get lost in self-doubt, Jamie began drafting a plan. Within the confines of the dining room, the portraits watched her like silent observers, and she felt defiance stir in her heart. What if the estate wasn't just about preserving brick and mortar, but infusing it with stories hers, that of the family, and the community surrounding them? She scribbled concepts on napkins, feeling exhilaration pulse through her veins. The potential for an artist-in-residence program dawned on her, where emerging local artists could transform the estate grounds into galleries of life, culture, and history. A blend of her passion for creativity with the opportunity to reinvigorate the family name. It was a radical departure from what had been, and what was expected of her, a path distinctly her own, yet rooted deeply in the family's heritage. The excitement of the possibility overwhelmed her. Yet, dread lurked in the corners of her mind. How would she pitch this idea to Edward? Would he see the same transformational potential she envisioned? Or would he dismiss her as just another dreamer? The battle between her fervor and her doubts raged on. Uncertainty gnawed at her, whispering concerns about whether she had the necessary skills or insights to lead such a venture. Taking a deep breath, she closed the folder, sitting up a little straighter. It's time to confront this, she whispered to herself. She could no longer afford the luxury of hesitation. The only way forward was to tackle this personal and professional war head-on. She needed knowledge, guidance, and perhaps even mentorship. If she was to reclaim the Parker legacy, she'd have to start making inquiries and learning from those around her. A sense of urgency propelled her from the dining room, each step resonating with a yearning to create something lasting. Knowledge was waiting out there. She just had to find it. Envisioning the soon-to-be vibrant estate filled with life buoyed her spirit. As she exited her grandfather's realm, a sense of clarity washed over her. Who was she without the weight of family expectations? It was time for Jamie to find out, to delve into her roots and redefine her identity. But just as she turned the corner, her phone buzzed with an incoming message. The screen lit up with a name that both thrilled and haunted her. Jen, the ambitious friend from art school who had built a successful career in branding and marketing. What could she want now? Did Jen know something Jamie didn't? Her heart raced, adrenaline surging. With uncertainty swirling in her mind, Jamie pressed her lips together and opened the message, her next step suddenly unclear and fraught with risk. Would this be the opportunity she needed, or another test of her resolve? As Jamie stared at the message, waves of anticipation and anxiety rolled through her. The text blared her name, inviting her to engage in a conversation that could change everything. Hey Jamie, got a moment to chat? I think I might have something that'll be right up your alley. Her instinct was to brush it off, to allow that familiar urge of self-doubt to set in. But she was on the precipice of something new. No retreating now. Gathering her thoughts like loose threads, she took a deep breath and replied with a tentative, sure. What's up? As she hit send, the reality of her situation settled in. Jen was no stranger to the cutthroat world of real estate branding. Her success was a testament that she understood the nuances of motherhood and art, cultivating the grand narratives that could sell a legacy. Jamie had witnessed Jen morph from an aimless artist to a savvy entrepreneur through sheer grit. Her phone buzzed again, and she glanced at Jen's swift response. Let us meet at this coffee shop I've been working on. It's perfect for artists and entrepreneurs alike. Jamie hesitated. The coffee shop was a new outlet in her neighborhood, its transformation a testament to the revival of the area. It felt too on the nose, like a mirror reflecting her indecision. But instead of retreating, she pushed the fear aside. She needed insight. She needed courage, and Jen might be able to provide that. As she walked through the vibrant streets toward the cafe, she felt her previous visions intermingling with reality. Each step propelled her into a world where her ideas could take shape. Jamie inhaled deeply, gathering the courage she felt siphoning through her. Soon, she'd be confronting not just her friend but her doubts, her ambitions, and something greater, her sense of self. Once inside, She scanned the crowd for Jen, spotting her immediately in a sea of bohemian attire, animatedly discussing designs with a group of creatives. Jamie's heart rate quickened, both excited and apprehensive. This wasn't just a meeting, it was a test of her resolve. "Jamie," Jen exclaimed, her smile brightening the space. "I'm so glad you came. I've been following the evolution of the Parker estate. Are you planning on doing something amazing there?" The enthusiasm in Jen's voice was contagious, yet the gravity of her words hit Jamie squarely in the chest. "I am toying with some ideas," she stammered. "I want to infuse the estate with art, maybe turn it into a hub for local talent." "Well then," Jen said, leaning in. "Let us talk strategy. You'll need to stand out, to create noise in a space that is traditionally seen as a museum of family relics. We need to leverage social media, build a potent narrative. Have you thought about your brand message?" Everything she had feared leaped from the shadows. Brand message. Noise. The very words felt foreign, as if they belonged to a world she had avoided. But as she listened to Jen delineate the challenges and triumphs, another part of Jamie began to awaken. Could she truly blend the emotional baggage of the family legacy with marketing ingenuity? "Every legacy has its shadows and sparks," Jen continued, her eyes glinting with excitement. "You have the chance to show the world what the Parkers can still give. Let us do this." With every word, a thread pulled tighter in Jamie's mind, binding her dreams to the potential realities Jen proposed. But with exhilaration came the uncertainty of execution. Could she truly grasp this challenge? Tendrils of apprehension slipped in, reminding her of the stakes. As they moved deeper into their conversation, Jamie felt the weight of the choices ahead, mingled with a budding sense of purpose. The shadows of her hesitation receded, but she knew every step came with its own set of risks and revelations. "Let us dive deeper into your vision," Jen said. "But first, I want you to reflect on what it means to you personally to rebrand this legacy. What stands at its heart?" A knot formed in Jamie's stomach. This was deeper than she had anticipated. It was a revival of her identity intertwined with her family's history. How did she want to present herself to the world? Was this just about artistry, or was it about her very sense of worth? Suddenly, the enormity of her aspirations pressed down again. Anxiety clutched her thoughts, and she found herself contemplating whether to step back or leap forward. Would she grasp the reins of this opportunity, or would she let it slip away? As the conversation ebbed and flowed, a revelation surged within her. In that coffee shop, among the chatter of budding entrepreneurs and artists, she resolved to face her tumultuous doubts. But that resolution would require forging a path she'd never imagined. Just then, a text pinged her phone, a new message from Edward, her grandfather's confidant, suddenly shifting the tides of her trajectory. The content was brief but explosive. "We need to talk. I have news regarding the estate and family business." A mix of dread and anticipation coursed through her veins. What would Edward reveal, and how would it affect the legacy she was trying to reshape? The sound of the text notification lingered in Jamie's mind as she tried to return her focus to the vibrant conversation with Jen. The atmosphere buzzed with energetic ideas, but her heart raced in tandem with the message clinging to her consciousness. Could this be the moment where everything shifted? "Are you with me, Jamie?" Jen's voice broke through the noise, pulling Jamie back into the cafe's light. "Sorry, I was thinking about something," Jamie replied, her instincts urging her to share the weight of her new discovery. But she hesitated, not wanting to unravel her current momentum. "Let us channel that energy. What's on your mind?" Jen continued, her eyes narrowing with excitement. Jamie studied her friend, assessing the path before her. She needed clarity, yet Edward's message threatened to unravel her fragile composure. Still, she understood that starting with the personal was essential if she hoped to sell the legacy. "I guess I'm grappling with how much of my family's history I want to expose," she confessed, the words tumbling out. "The estate isn't just a business opportunity, it holds memories, identity's burdens." Jen nodded, her encouraging gaze steering Jamie's thoughts. "That's exactly what will differentiate your brand. The tension between beauty and burden is relatable. Once you find your authentic narrative, you can connect with people on a much deeper level." Jamie felt a flicker of hope. It wasn't enough to present the estate as mere market potential. She had to share its story. Yet the question loomed still: how? What about incorporating workshops or artist residencies? Jen suggested, painting a picture of community and collaboration. People love to engage with places that invite participation instead of exclusivity. The vision excited Jamie. That could work. But then how do I maintain the integrity of the estate? I can't just turn history into a spectacle. Exactly. And that's where your unique perspective comes in. You have the key to weave storytelling into heritage, emotionally and visually. Think of it as creating a tapestry. Each thread represents a different aspect of the estate, past, present, and the community intertwined. Jamie's mind raced at the imagery. Tapestry. It signaled something intentional and significant. Every color, every thread could symbolize the layered narrative she wanted to explore. But just as quickly as inspiration struck, the weight of her grandfather's message loomed large once more. What if I'm not ready for this? She whispered, the vulnerability slipping out before she could rein it in. What if I fail? Failure is just a part of the process. What you might see as falling short could be an opportunity to learn. Jen responded, leaning closer as if to forge a deeper connection. You're capable of much more than you give yourself credit for. Jamie recalled the countless times she dismissed her own potential. The echoes of disbelief etched in her mind. Her narrative had long been defined by limitations, by what others expected of her rather than what her heart truly yearned for. In that moment, she realized it was time to reclaim her voice. You're right. I need to own this journey, weave my own narrative, not just the Parker legacy, Jamie declared, feeling a surge of determination beating through her. Jen grinned, her enthusiasm infectious. They dove back into strategizing, outlining potential initiatives that could breathe new life into the estate. The more they brainstormed, the more Jamie's anxiety shifted to exhilaration. But as the conversation danced around possibilities, uneasiness prickled at the back of her mind, reminding her of Edward's cryptic warning. What news did he have? With each plan they discussed, questions about the family business surfaced, complicated layers of trust, legacy, and expectations. Finally, unable to hold back any longer, she pulled out her phone and texted Edward. I'm free to talk right now. What's going on? That twist felt significant, like a turning point. And as she awaited his reply, she realized facing the family legacy meant confronting whatever secrets Edward held, secrets that could either propel her forward or pull her back into the shadows she longed to escape. When her phone vibrated again, Jamie's heart raced. Edward's text flashed on the screen. Meet me in 1 hour. I have information that will reshape everything. Could this be the definitive moment she had both craved and dreaded? Would she seize this opportunity to confront her past, or would it threaten the new path she was beginning to carve out for herself? Jamie knew one thing for certain: the hour ahead would decide her next step. The cafe's cheerful bustle faded into a distant hum as Jamie's thoughts spiraled in anticipation of her impending meeting with Edward. She felt a familiar rush of unease, but buried it beneath a layer of resolve. It was time to confront the past, not just the legacy hanging over her, but the question of her worthiness to claim it. As she stepped outside, the crisp air bit at her cheeks, invigorating and daunting all at once. She tucked her hair behind her ears. The chaotic thoughts that had engulfed her were steadily organizing into clarity. The walk to the designated meeting place was short, but filled with a quiet urgency. Each footfall echoed the internal rhythm of a heart hungry for answers and direction. Seated across from Edward in a dimly lit corner of the old bookstore, she noticed a certain gravity in his eyes that hadn't been there before. You came, he remarked, his tone a mix of surprise and obligation. Let us get to it. What do you have to tell me? Jamie's voice came out steadier than she felt. Edward shifted uncomfortably. It's not just about the estate, you know. There's more to the Parker legacy than meets the eye. It's not solely a family affair anymore. His words hung in the air thick with unsaid truths. Jamie's chest tightened. What do you mean? Your grandfather, he left behind secrets that could change everything about how you see your role in this family. The estate was built on more than wealth and connections. It's also about unresolved issues, risks taken, and lost opportunities. Her mind reeled. What could possibly be hiding in the shadows of her family? You're saying there's more than just bricks and mortar? What kind of secrets? Edward glanced around, cautious, then leaned in. There were rumors about investments he made, risky ones. Not all of his business dealings were above board. He was involved with unsavory characters. This could affect your plans significantly, Jamie. You need to understand that. The weight of his words pressed down like an anvil. Jamie was no stranger to the complexities of family dynamics. But the mere thought of corruption within her lineage shook her more than she anticipated. Questions flooded her thoughts. What did she stand to lose? If her grandfather's legacy was tainted, how would she reclaim it for herself? Is that why you've been so distant? She probed, determined not to let his revelations derail her. There's been something heavy hanging between us, and I need you to be straight with me. Edward hesitated, exhaling slowly. I didn't want to worry you, but now that you're stepping into this world, you deserve to know. You're right to claim your narrative, but what if the truth changes everything? The risks were both exhilarating and terrifying. Jamie realized her journey wasn't just about launching a personal brand. It involved navigating familial treachery and confronting truths she wasn't prepared for. But could she truly own her narrative amidst the shadows of deceit? I have to know more, she said, resolve hardening in her tone. We will do this together. I need your help to unearth whatever lies beneath the surface. If there are secrets that threaten my vision, I won't let that define me. I will rewrite my story. In that moment, Jamie felt a surge of determination flush through her. She was reclaiming the narrative of the Parker legacy, ready to strip away the tarnished past and uncover the layers beneath. Unraveling these complexities would require courage, confrontation, and a level of transparency she had yet to navigate. Edward nodded, gratitude flickering in his gaze. That spirit will serve you well more than you can imagine. As they mapped out a plan for their next steps, Jamie felt the tension coiling in her gut. Each resolution they forged bore the weight of uncertainty, yet they also ignited a flicker of possibility. What if her grandfather's hidden stories were not merely a burden, but a launchpad for her reinvention? The stakes felt monumental, as she sensed the lines of her path entangle risk, fear, and the flicker of hope. The meeting concluded, but the questions remained. With every revelation, the shadows grew deeper. As they stood to leave, Jamie faced Edward. No more secrets. Promise me. I promise, he assured. Yet she wondered if the past would allow them that privilege. Walking away, the cool air turned sharp against her skin, but she embraced the chill, stepping into the unknown with renewed fervor. The path ahead felt steeped in both uncertainty and promise. But as Jamie settled into her thoughts, another message pinged on her phone, the familiar vibration pulling her focus once more. A text from an unknown number flashed across the screen. I know what you're planning, and I'll ensure you fail. Her heart pounded. Who would stand in her way? What were the stakes now that she was diving headfirst into a legacy fraught with secrets and sabotage? Jamie stared at the screen, her pulse drumming in her ears. The anonymity of the message was jarring. What was meant to be a promising journey toward discovering her family's truths was now clouded by an ominous warning. She felt her stomach twist, a mix of apprehension and fury igniting within her. Whoever this was had managed to tap into her most vulnerable moment. The uncertainty that seeped from every decision made. A wave of anxiety washed over her, threatening to overshadow her new resolve. She typed a reply, then hesitated. What could she say that wouldn't border on panic? Instead, she locked her phone, tucking it away. The cold air stung more fiercely as she walked, but she welcomed it as a reminder of her determination. Rather than letting fear take root, Jamie knew she needed a plan. She replayed Edward's words in her mind, all the ambiguity and secrets hovering like a storm cloud just out of reach. Navigating the Parker legacy would require more than just courage. It would demand a strategic approach. She had to confront the shadows, not flee from them. As she made her way to her apartment, Jamie began mentally cataloging her resources. Edward, though cryptic, had become a vital ally, and if she could close the distance between them, perhaps he could illuminate the areas that remained obscured. But she also recognized that she'd have to learn to operate in the shadows herself. She had to gain the confidence to face whatever antagonism awaited her, both from the world outside and from her family history. The apartment loomed before her, a worn reminder of the life she was desperate to transform. Inside, she poured herself a cup of tea, the warmth balancing the chill that clung to her bones. She pulled out her laptop, ready to research anything she could uncover about her grandfather's business dealings. It was time to make moves of her own. Each click of the keyboard fed her resolve. The hours passed in a blur as snippets of information began to emerge from the digital depths. Articles, forum posts, financial records all painted a picture that was more complex than she had anticipated. As her laptop's glow illuminated the small space, Jamie felt a sense of urgency morphing into clarity. Each revelation she uncovered didn't just tie back to her grandfather. They also became crucial pieces of her identity. But amidst the threads of potential success, came doubts. What if the truth cut deeper than she could bear? Were those shadows truly worth chasing? She wrestled with her instinct to distance herself, to hide from the chaos, but that wasn't who she decided to become. Just as she settled into a hopeful rhythm of discovery, another message chimed from her phone, this time a different number, more familiar. Edward. We need to meet. It's urgent. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up. What could be urgent enough to summon her after their earlier discussion? Heart racing, Jamie swiftly gathered her notes and locked her screen, determination propelling her to face whatever news awaited. Each step she took was filled with anticipation. Would this meeting unveil deeper secrets about her family, or expose threats that had yet been hidden? Regardless of the outcome, Jamie understood that today would be defining. She was no longer merely a passive player in her family's story. She was stepping boldly into the role of the protagonist. With every revelation stirring the air into a tempest of emotions, Jamie felt the weight of her family's legacy shatter and reform around her. She was navigating through a maze of history, and within that chaos lay the key to her reinvention. She took a deep breath, ready for the fight. As she arrived at the chosen spot for their meeting, uncertainty mingled with fierce resolve. The stakes were climbing, and the shadows were closing in. What new truths did Edward have to share? It was time for her to fight back. The door swung open, and Jamie stepped inside. The first thing she noticed was the tense energy hanging in the room, thicker than the air outside. Before she could even address him, Edward spoke. It's more serious than we thought. You need to see this. Her heartbeat quickened. But what was it that lay ahead? Veiled in uncertainty, yet crackling with potential. The words hung in the air like a heavy fog, shrouded in uncertainty, but charged with an undercurrent of revelation. Jamie took a moment to gauge Edward's expression, reading the mix of urgency and concern etched on his face. She knew instinctively that something significant was about to shift in the narrative of her life. This was no casual conversation. It was a pivot point. What do you mean? Jamie's voice was steadier than she felt. She crossed her arms tightly, a barrier against the rising tide of dread. Edward stepped closer, the distance between them shrinking, heightening the tension. He pulled a folder from under his arm, brow furrowed. I did some digging of my own after we last spoke. And what I found, it could change everything for you. Curiosity intertwined with trepidation as she focused on the folder. It felt like a gate opening into another dimension, one that could either offer insight or plunge her deeper into chaos. Jamie nodded, urging him to continue. As it turns out, he began, flipping the folder open. Your grandfather was involved in something much more than just business affairs. He revealed a series of documents, reports, photographs that spoke of clandestine meetings and high-stakes deals. He was entangled in a network of influence that reaches beyond your family. This isn't just about the Parker legacy, it's about power dynamics that stretch across industries. Jamie's mind raced. What had her grandfather been a part of? Had she unknowingly been stepping into a realm tainted by secrets and moral ambiguities? The weight of the moment pressed down on her, and she felt a knot tightening in her stomach. This wasn't mere financial exploration. This was a deep dive into the dark underbelly of influence and power. What does this mean for me? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The realization hit her that she was no longer a mere spectator in this saga. She had become a participant, possibly even a target. Edward's eyes narrowed, intensity flickering within them. It means you must be prepared. There are people watching. They won't hesitate to protect their interests. Your grandfather's past could very well endanger your future if you stumble into the wrong territory. Fear clung to her, but underneath it lay a fierce determination. She had come too far to retreat now. Jamie recognized that these revelations were not just external threats. They were challenges she had to embrace if she truly wished to take control of her life. What do we do? Jamie asked, focusing her thoughts. It was time to strategize, to transform her apprehension into action. We must dig deeper, Edward replied, flipping through the documents again. But discreetly. It would be wise to connect with people who have insight into this network milieu that your grandfather operated in. It's expansive, and it could be dangerous as well. As she absorbed his words, Jamie felt the urgency of the situation wash away the last remnants of her doubt. Each passing second was an invitation to seize her narrative, to claim her ancestry and redefine what it meant to be a Parker. Let us do it, she declared. The moment of decision marked her transformation from hesitant explorer to active seeker of truth. They debated their next steps, drawing up a rudimentary plan. Names and potential allies began to fill the air between them. Jamie felt a fire igniting within her, a fire that wasn't just about unearthing her family's past, but about exploring her own capabilities and uncovering hidden strengths. But beneath this newfound empowerment lurked an unsettling question. What would she do when she uncovered the truths that awaited her? Would she dare confront the legacy that sought to bind her? Or would she forge her own path among the ruins? As they concluded their meeting, Jamie's mind buzzed with possibilities and shadows alike. Her heart raced with the weight of impending confrontation. This was no longer just a familial exploration. It was a challenge that would push her to her limits. What if the truth shatters everything I know? She wondered to herself as Edward left, leaving her alone with the echoes of their conversation. The very fabric of her identity was at stake, and she knew the time had come to face the depths of her lineage. With every tick of the clock, she felt herself teetering on the edge of two worlds, the light of newfound clarity and the darkness of unbridled secrets. As she prepared to dive back into the depths of her history, Jamie couldn't shake the sensation that the real danger was yet to come. The question loomed large. Was she ready to uncover truths buried in shadows that might be more potent than she could ever imagine? As she turned to her notes once again, a shiver ran down her spine, a mix of anticipation and fear as the next chapter of her life awaited, shrouded in intrigue and potential danger. Jamie closed the folder with a snap, the echo reverberating in the quiet room like a gunshot. She leaned back in her chair, overwhelmed by the weight of the revelations that had just crashed into her world. The documents she had seen, while revealing, opened doors she never realized existed, doors that all led to the complex labyrinth of her family's past. What now? The enormity of what she had unearthed pressed against her chest, almost suffocating. She had spent years navigating her life in the shadow of the Parker name, never fully aware of what lurked behind it. But now, the smoke had cleared, and she could see the rough edges of her inheritance, the seeds of power and peril. Determined to wrestle control from the grip of anxiety, Jamie reached for her phone. The names Edward had suggested echoed in her mind like a chant. She had to pursue every lead, every connection, and piece together the jigsaw of her grandfather's influence. This wasn't going to be a mere research task. It was a mission, a chance for evolution. She would not be defined by her past but by how she chose to engage with it. After a moment of frenetic scrolling, she identified the first individual from the list, a former associate of her grandfather, who had recently retired. Graham Elwood had a reputation for being a straight shooter, a valuable trait given the murky territory they were treading into. Jamie took a deep breath, contemplating her approach. She needed to be strategic. As she put on her jacket, a flicker of doubt crept in. What if Graham wasn't willing to share information? What if exposing her motive put her in jeopardy? The intensity of her resolve was palpable. She recognized these feelings as remnants of her former self, fearful and hesitant. But Jamie also felt invigorated by a new perspective. This was survival now, not mere exploration. Failure was not an option. Climbing into her car, Jamie shifted gears. She conjured a plan that relied not just on gathering intel but on turning the tables. What if instead of asking for favors, she positioned herself as an equal partner? She was Parker by blood, after all. That lineage carried weight. even if she had not yet learned to wield it effectively. She would leverage her family name while carefully crafting her narrative, making it clear she was a force to be reckoned with, not a passive inheritor of a fraudulent legacy. As she drove toward Graham's office, the city blurred past her. It was late afternoon, and shadows began encroaching as the sun dipped below the skyline. The scenery outside transformed, mirroring her internal tumult. It was all becoming much more real, and yet undeniably thrilling. This was her chance to not only reclaim her identity, but to shape it into something powerful and unapologetic. Once at Graham's office, Jamie steadied her breath before stepping inside. The scent of aged leather and faint espresso enveloped her, grounding her in the moment. She approached the receptionist, offering a confident smile while her heart thudded against her ribs, each beat urging her on. "Jamie Parker here, for Mr. Elwood. Have a seat." "I'll let him know you're here," the woman replied, glancing at her curiously. There was a thrum of energy in that moment, a sense that she was crossing a threshold into new realms. Seated, Jamie reflected not only on the family secret she was seeking, but on her hidden potential now surfacing, demanding recognition. Being a Parker wasn't just about wealth or reputation. It was an inheritance of resilience and ambition. A few moments later, Graham emerged. He was tall, his gray hair framing a lined face that seemed to cradle countless stories. He extended his hand, and as she clasped his, Jamie felt the weight of her intention settle into place. This was not just a meeting regarding her grandfather. This was her first intentional step into the world of power dynamics. "Miss Parker, what can I do for you today?" His voice carried a depth that hinted at the wisdom and experiences of his past. Jamie smiled, fully ready to engage. "I came to discuss what my grandfather was really involved in, and how I can possibly step into that world." As they entered into a discussion that would challenge her resolve and push the boundaries of her ambition, a thought raced through her mind. Had she just stepped into a game that was meant for players far more seasoned than herself? Navigating these waters would require more than courage. It would call for cunning and resolve. The stakes were higher than she'd imagined, and she felt the truth more profoundly than ever. She was on the brink of becoming someone she had yet to define. What she didn't know was that soon enough, she would have to confront more than just the shadows of her grandfather's past. Dark forces would rise to meet her, and she would be compelled to protect not only her new identity, but everything she had yet to discover about herself. Jamie Parker stood at the crossroads of her life, her heart racing with the weight of recent revelations. The journey from her car to this pivotal moment had been marked by tumult, yet she felt a solid determination crystallizing within her. She was ready to redefine her path. Armed with newfound knowledge from her encounter with Graham Elwood, she had begun formulating a comprehensive approach to both reclaim her family's legacy and assert her individuality. Each piece of information she'd gathered about Edward's past dealings not only emphasized the stakes involved, but also illuminated the opportunities lying in wait for her to seize. As she sat down to draft her strategic plan, Jamie felt a surge of power pulsing through her. No longer willing to be a mere spectator in her family's narrative, she was prepared to engage directly with its complexities. With each click of the keyboard, she articulated a clear vision, one that fused the richness of her family's heritage with her passion for community, art, and storytelling. The estate, she concluded, could breathe again, not as a relic but as a vibrant hub for innovation and expression. The initial steps crystallized around the concept of revitalizing the estate into a living, breathing entity, a sanctuary for artists and creators. She mapped out an artist-in-residence program that would invite local talent to reimagine the grounds. It wouldn't just be a transformation of space. It would be a reclamation of identity. Heavy financial reports transformed into visions of colorful murals, live performances, and workshops. Days turned into weeks as she labored over the launch of her initiative. Contacts she made through Graham offered valuable insights into the inner workings of the art and real estate sectors. They inspired her to think creatively about funding and community engagement. Fortnightly meetings turned into brainstorming sessions, with Jamie's conviction growing stronger each day. The culmination of her efforts came when she decided to hold a launch event, a gathering of artists, community leaders, and potential investors. This was it. She'd unveil her plans to the world, solidifying her position not just as Jamie Parker, the granddaughter of Edward, but as Jamie Parker, a force driven by purpose. Throughout the process, Jamie had faced obstacles both external and internal. Doubts would occasionally creep in, whispering that she might not be equipped for this. Perhaps the weight of her family history was too heavy a burden to bear. Yet with each setback, she stood resolute. Learning from other entrepreneurs and discovering her voice fortified her spirit. She embraced her failures as stepping stones toward growth. The night of the event arrived, and as she looked out over a sea of faces illuminated by soft lights against the historic backdrop of the estate, Jamie felt a swell of pride. She was not just unveiling a project, she was presenting herself to the world. Each detail had been meticulously crafted to reflect her vision of merging family legacy with her unique artistic narrative. The rustle of conversations filled the air, and the anticipation was palpable. Friends, strangers, and family gathered eagerly, waiting for her to speak. When she stepped onto the makeshift stage, heart racing yet resolute, she took a deep breath. This was her moment, the culmination of all her growth and transformation. "Thank you all for being here," she began, her voice slicing through the hum of chatter. "Tonight marks a new chapter, not just for the Parker estate, but for all of us who believe in the power of creativity to heal, unite, and inspire." As she detailed her plans, she addressed her family's legacy, acknowledging its burdens yet framing them within the context of empowerment. This old estate could become a canvas for new stories, rich with the color of the present. At the close of her presentation, a thunderous applause erupted, wrapping around her like a warm embrace. It was validation, the culmination of months of hard work, fears confronted, and ambitions embraced. A feeling of solid confidence washed over her. She had made a meaningful impact, and she knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. Later that night, amidst the celebratory atmosphere, Jamie found Edward standing at the edge of the gathering. His eyes glimmered with pride, and the storm clouds of their past seemed to drift away. "You've done well, Jamie. I never doubted you for a moment," he said, offering her a sincere smile. "Thank you for everything, Grandpa," she replied, her voice thick with emotion. "I couldn't have done it without your support." Jamie felt the full circle of transformation complete. No longer was she shackled by her family's past. She had chosen to embrace it while crafting her own identity. She had proven to herself not only that she could revitalize the Parker name, but that she could forge her own legacy, one rooted in authenticity and creativity. Feeling lighter than she had in years, Jamie knew she had only just begun. The road ahead was brimming with possibilities, with both challenges and triumphs waiting on every horizon. There was still much to learn and even more to achieve. With renewed spirit, Jamie embraced uncertainty as part of her journey, resolutely moving forward, ready for whatever would come next. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion, because you need to show your support now. Don't wait even one more second.